I was able to stack up 17,226 for Damage Hornets during the Locked Gate event on Blue Gate. Locked Gate is great for this challenge because it gives you 40 minutes to use for farming, which significantly helps in stacking up more points than you can get in any other 30-minute 2x event raids. You're going to want to use Hullcracker for most of your damage with this trial, because it will ensure you receive max points per Hornet elimination. There are many ways to take out a Hornet, and as it turns out, each method will reward you with a variation of score. At best, you can earn up to 360 points for one Hornet if you fully eliminate it correctly. In order to achieve max points, the easiest way that I've found to do it is to blow it up with some kind of an explosive. Arguably, the most common way to eliminate a Hornet is to take out 2 thrusters and let it crash to the ground. If you do that though, you essentially receive half points at about 178, give or take. If you're a low-key maniac and hit only body shots with something like a Renegade, you can get close to 360 at 354 or so. These points per elimination will vary between eliminations. Sometimes I got 150 instead of 178, sometimes I got 325 instead of 354. But I always got 360 when I blew it up with a Hullcracker. For your other weapon, Osprey is really effective. The goal here is using the sniper to aggro enemies to you and then letting the Hullcracker do the heavy lifting. The Osprey burns durability fairly quick, but as long as you use it mostly just to pull enemies, you'll be able to get through a full match with only a single Osprey. I recommend bringing in at least 5 stacks of 24 Hullcracker shots and at least 4 stacks of medium ammo. You'll be able to farm ammo off Hornets to keep yourself flush with medium ammo, so you don't need to overpack unless you plan to use a Renegade, in which case double that. For protection, I recommend bringing a medium shield and a backup shield, even if it's just a light shield. 5 bandages, 5 herbal bandages, and 5 shield rechargers. You'll be farming a ton of enemies, so don't overspend on shield rechargers. You'll get nearly infinite arc power cells to use throughout this match. Lastly, I always recommend bringing 5 adrenaline shots, which always come in handy during a raid for me. All that said, Osprey and Hullcracker aren't necessarily the best PvP options, so if you have PvP heavy lobbies, I recommend bringing a pocket pick you can swap to if you feel like you're going to need to defend yourself against raiders. You will want a full match for this unless you get a spawn close to the area you'll be farming from. Once you spawn in, you're going to want to make your way to Overlook Airshaft, essentially in the middle of the map in terms of lengthwise. Preferably you want this extraction to be disabled on spawn and it not to be an option for raiders to use at all throughout the raid. It will greatly reduce your foot traffic and potential score loss from raiders helping to eliminate enemies swarming you. On the way to the airshaft, you should eliminate Hornets as you go to start racking up your score and to start their respawn time. Don't worry about snitches just yet, focus only on the Hornets you see on the way and try to take them out as fast as possible. You want all the score to be yours, so don't let other raiders have the opportunity to participate in your eliminations. I recommend using adrenaline shots to get to the airshaft as quickly as possible. Once you made it to the airshaft, you're going to be here for the entire match, so get comfortable. The first thing you need to do is start pulling enemies to you from every direction. You're looking for 2 types of enemies here. The first is map spawned Hornets, usually in packs with a wasp or 2. The second is snitches, which will spawn 1 Hornet and 2 wasps once it calls in for reinforcements. As a note, Snitch Scanners do not spawn Hornets, they only spawn 2 wasps, so don't waste your time grabbing and throwing those.
Alright, I think I just need 1 more. Cool if I use a Snitch Scanner?
Yeah, you're good. You won't get a Hornet off a Snitch Scanner though, it's just gonna give you 2 wasps.
Alright, wait, are you sure?
100%, yeah, go ahead, throw it. And you can, it's fine, you'll just get 2 wasps though.
I could have sworn like Hornets had a chance of spawning in.
Yeah, I've thrown a bunch of those, never had one spawn.
Start with targeting Hornets at the warehouse complex or on Ridgeline where they spawn in. There is a duo of Hornets that roams in this area, and as far as I know, are the only Hornet duo on the map. They always spawn in together as well, making it very easy to rack up score. Speaking of spawning in, knowing how these enemies spawn in is actually incredibly important, as you will want to rotate your focus accordingly to what's spawning in. Snitches will always spawn in alone, which you'll see and hear by a single smoke trail flying down from the sky. They normally spawn in between major areas of the map or off to the side a little bit away from normal trafficked areas. Hornets will spawn in stacks of 2 to 3, all with the same small smoke trail and sound effects flying down from the sky. You want to prioritize these groups whenever you can, as they spawned in less frequently for me compared to snitches, making them a bit more important to aggro before anyone else. Once you've taken out the Hornets and Snitches to the north, scan across to the east along Ridgeline, as that's where a bunch of these groups spawn in. Then rotate to the south and look for a Snitch or a one-off Hornet near the Olive Grove. Be careful aggroing this Hornet. There's a leaper that patrols by it, and pulling that with a Hornet is going to sap your time farming. Once you've eliminated all available options to the south, look to the west across checkpoint for a Snitch or two. These ones will be harder to aggro, and in some cases you just won't be able to aggro them because of how far away they are. After a certain distance, bullets won't aggro a Snitch, even if they're close to it. You have to actually hit the Snitch, which is not an easy thing to do reliably at that range. On top of that, your shots are going to cross over a bombardier down in the checkpoint, and even if you hit the Snitch, it still has to travel across the entire map to get to you. There's plenty of ways for this to go wrong. Raiders can eliminate it on the way, it can aggro to someone else that's closer to it, or it can even pull the spotters from the bombardier with it. I only recommend going for these options if and when you have nothing else close by to go for. Once you're done with enemies from the west, look back to the north towards the warehouse complex and Pilgrim's Peak. The enemies you eliminated earlier should have respawned or will be close to it by now. At all times during the rotation, you need to stop what you're doing and focus the north or east whenever you hear a double or triple spawn. These are the groups of enemies you can make the most points from, and they are the closest to you, so make sure you get them aggroed and eliminated before anyone else does. Throughout this entire process, I had raiders coming over to see what I was doing, some of them just curious to see why there was so much smoke, some of them wanting to farm with me, and others looking for some PvP. Every PvP situation is different, but I've found decent luck, at least within friendly lobbies, of just letting people know what you're doing and letting them know that you kind of want the area to yourself.
I'm actually working on trying to get a high score for the challenge. Would you mind letting me kind of be alone here? Thanks, buddy. I appreciate it.
That worked for me, at least in this run. The person that was there farming with me ended up giving me the space and letting me continue on with setting a score that I was happy with. Now that you understand the core rotation, let's talk about using your weapons effectively. 40 minutes is a long time to farm a high volume of enemies, and it can be deceptively easy to burn your weapon out before the end of the raid, or to blow through your hole cracker ammo by shooting it at the wrong times or the wrong parts of the enemy. Your Osprey should never be used and shot more than 1 to 2 times per close group of enemies, and 3 to 4 times at enemies far away. At 17,226, if you assume I got full damage for every Hornet I eliminated, it ends up being about 48 Hornets. Consider that with at least half of these, I also had 2 Wasps that spawned in with them, and a Snitch that I had to aggro first. That means you're using the ammo and weapons you brought in to take out nearly 100 enemies. At 2 to 4 shots per enemy, the durability burn or ammo loss will stack up fast across the full length of the game. For your hole cracker, I highly recommend you learn to be patient when using it. Hornets and Wasps do the same general attack pattern where they will fly around a bunch right up until they're ready to attack, at which point they hover in place for a moment to do that attack. Wait for this moment to use the hole cracker. It will essentially ensure you're always one-shotting both Hornets and Wasps. For a Wasp, you can hit it anywhere with a hole cracker and it'll go down in one. Hornets, on the other hand, are tanks if you don't hit them correctly. You can end up using 3 rounds per Hornet if you try and take it out through its armored front side. The trick to one-shotting a Hornet is aiming at the back thrusters from below, hitting its unarmored, or at least it looks to be less armored area. I took a bunch of electric shocks from Hornets just to ensure I got in that one shot. Over the length of this full round, you're going to rack up a ton of eliminations all around the airshaft area, and each elimination brings a downed enemy that creates a smoke plume. Once you have 10 to 20 enemies down, this smoke becomes more of a nuisance and begins to block your visibility. I recommend looting everything off of the bodies as you go, and have bag space for. I did this whenever I had a drought of enemies to farm, and it kept the area manageable throughout this. As time winds down on the challenge, you have to decide how much risk you want to play with. Extractions can be anywhere on the map and will take anywhere from 45 seconds to 1 to 2 minutes to run to, depending on enemies in the area. Plus, you need to assume there's some raider out there you don't know about that might be on the hunt for you, and you'll need time to suss that out. Never trust a raider during the last minute of the game, especially if you can let them extract and then extract on your own safely after they leave. Try to take out as many Hornets as you can on the way towards the extraction. This will be your last chance to stack up score. Once you're ready to leave, head back to Speranza, collect your loot if you haven't already, and watch your score fly up the leaderboard. That's going to be it for me today, y'all. Thanks for watching.